Guys, listen up. As you get older, the best way to continue to look young, exuberant, and vibrant is to continue to take care of your skin. That's why I'm excited to have Teej Hanley as a sponsor of today's video. You heard me talk about them before, and you're going to continue to hear me talk about them because I believe in their products and the positive impact that they have on every man's life. Teej Hanley makes taking care of your skin so easy. They provide you with all the products you need and nothing that you don't. Every box comes with an instruction card that tells you when to use each product, how much to use, and in what order. Lapeef family, I must admit, skincare wasn't always something I always focused on, but since I started using this system, I've seen improvements in the way my skin looks and feels. And you don't have to take my word for it. They have over 5,000 five-star reviews on their website from satisfied customers from around the world. I recommend you start with the level 1 system, which comes with all the basics: a daily face wash, an exfoliating scrub, an AM moisturizer, and a PM moisturizer. In addition to amazing skin, members of Teej Hanley get tons of benefits, including at least 20% off retail price, the ability to customize your box, pause or cancel at any time, and free US shipping. And because Teej Hanley is sponsoring today's video, they're offering my viewers a great deal. Just click that first link in the description and you'll get 30% off your first box plus the free gift. Seriously, that's an amazing deal. Even though it's too early, as I often say, it's never too late. Click that link and get started today. Going on, family? Welcome to Lapeef-ing Sundays. Let me go ahead and introduce the crew. We got Mistaken, Stacy, Luis, Hink in the Basement, Jay, a story to tell, Sael, Eric, and me myself from Lapeef JR. Welcome to Lapeef-ing Sunday. How you guys doing?
Doing good, man.
Thank
What's
God.
going on, yeah?
Another day in the paradise, per usual.
Another
Well, it's
busy,
good to huh?
another busy week.
Another busy. We always busy, Luis.
The show, the show came in kind of abruptly. What was up, Jr.? It's not normal like you come in with it.
Yeah, normally we got some bounce.
Yeah. I'm on a mobile setup, man. I'm on a mobile setup, so I couldn't haul all that equipment away.
I
So I
got
had to try to make it do what it
Taking
do.
that show on the road.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it sounded like Jay was ready to turn up. I understand, Jay. I know what you mean.
I see, man. Like you go to crit walking. What was that dance again? Let me see it.
Yeah, that's right. Jay just came out the club with that one.
I know, man. Still trying to carry it over from last night, right?
Yeah, man.
All right. Well, it's good to see you guys. You go ahead and take care of house business. Shout out to the sponsor again, T Channel Uncomplicated Skincare for Men. 30% off along with a free gift. That link is in the description. Y'all make sure y'all go ahead and fill the T's, as I always say. Again, the link in the description. Shout out to all my Green Gang. You want to become part of the Green Gang? That link is pinned to the top of the chat. Shout out to Tay Biz TV, Joe Lee. I see you, Mr. BX87. Good to see you guys. Appreciate your contributions that you do every month and being a member. Hit the like button. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And maybe share the stream. We are just now getting started. So I hate for you guys to miss any of this great conversation that was about to happen. So with that being said, y'all ready to do this?
Yes, sir.
Get it?
Let's do it.
I don't project any hurt feelings. Reports need to be filled out today. So I'm hoping everybody's on their best behavior. It is Sunday. Sometimes I know some Sunday folks don't give a damn. They just still gonna be there. But I don't project that. It's going to be a nice panel today. So I think we should be all good. Yeah, I'm gonna sound sure about that. Everybody good, right?
Everybody good, man. It's gonna be
Shout out to the Hurt Feelings Reports. Shout out to the Hurt Feelings Reports.
just a well-behaved crew, man.
Y'all can't leave me hanging now, especially when I'm telling them jokes.
Miss Taking the only one with the sidearm, yeah. She'll get them shots off on a Sunday, man.
I do it in Jesus' name, though.
Jay, she's the one be filling out them hurt feelings for while she's smiling at you.
Never that. My skin too thick for that.
I know that's right.
All right, well, let's go ahead and dive into our first topic. First topic of this afternoon/evening, depending on where you are, is you're born looking like your dad, you die looking like your decisions. You're born looking like your dad, you die looking like your decisions. We're going to play this clip.
This often, we drive what we drive by choice. We could go get nicer, newer cars, but we've made a mature decision to not feel intimidated when you meet your friends for lunch and everybody's jumping out of a new car and yours is 15 years old. We made a choice not to be affected by that. We made a choice to think, okay, if we decide to get married, if we don't have this amount of money in the bank, why would we spend that to throw a celebration? We're not gonna, you have to have those conversations as individuals, and then you make those decisions as families. And I heard someone say not too long ago, you're born looking like your dad, you die looking like your decisions. So it's how you leave this earth is going to be just how you made decisions.
I'm about to use that one.
Hey, I'm going to use that as well. I'm about to use that as well.
I'm taking that one.
Like real good.
All right, let's go ahead and dive into it. You're born looking like your dad looking like your decisions. Let me go ahead and get into Eric first. What are your thoughts about this, sir?
Wow. I mean, it's funny. I just came from a conference this weekend, and one of the things that was talked about during the conference is like we're all made up from the lineage that we came from, right? whether it's great grandfathers, great great grandfathers, whatever. And it's not only just our looks, but our behaviors. So I think that's true to a certain extent. And but I would like to say something not so much on the negative side of it, but like even on the positive side too, because we tend to look at just the bad things that our fathers did. We look at the bad things that the people before us did, but also, at least in my case, you know, yeah, my dad did some things that was a little bit off, but he also did some great things too. And I see a lot of that in me as well. So sometimes it all depends on what you choose to see. And sometimes it's just the situation that you're in. So I do agree with the young lady, but then also like just her connotation was maybe a little bit on the negative side, and it's not always negative. Like there's some good things that, you know, you get from your parents, especially your dad. I know I did.
All right. Sarah, what are your thoughts about it, man?
Well, I agree to a certain point because I know that we make decisions based on our environment or childhood trauma that affects who we are and how we respond to situations. So that's, pretty much how we get our decisions done. However, I also believe that we're adults and we are responsible. We need to stop victimizing ourselves and heal from our traumas from childhood and start taking accountability and responsibility, just like, the previous person said. Look at the positive and negative. Like if my father, example, because my father is not an alcoholic, was an alcoholic, some people excuse themselves, oh, my father was an alcoholic, so I'm going to be an alcoholic too. But, it's for you to break that chain and say, you know what? I don't want to do that. I want to do better than that because I am responsible for my life. But we want to excuse ourselves and say, okay, I'm this way because of my parents, because of my mom, because of my father. And it's not easy. It's not easy to heal, for sure. I am the oldest out of 7 on my dad's side. And I can see from each of my siblings, we have had different experience, but at the same time, the same experience, but affected us differently. So one of my sister is more resentful, and I am more like understanding on my parents. So it depends on how we grew, and our characters are also involved. But in a way, it's true what she's saying, in a way.
All right. Go ahead, Luis. What are your thoughts about it, sir? You're born looking like your dad looking like your decisions.
That's an interesting that was an interesting take. I actually had to write that one down. I agree with it. I do see where Eric was coming from when he laid out his perspective to begin with. I would say is that the first 18 years of your life, I think that you're giving a prescriptive programming in which you need to be able to get to a certain point in your life and realize you need to unprogram all the bad habits and all the bad characteristic traits that were bestowed upon you, right? You were taught certain mannerisms and certain habits that are not conducive for you to evolve as an adult. And sort of, I think you got to get to a point where you got to make the decision to unlearn those things. So like that, you could eventually start making better decisions in your life, because those things will set you back. I think that it's sometimes a cop out for people to hide that behind the idea that my dad was an abuser or my dad was an alcoholic or my parents were this. Everybody goes through circumstances, but unfortunately, the unpopular truth is that the world does not owe you any explanation. And I think that you have to grow and evolve and put yourself in a position to kind of not follow in those bad footsteps, right? Set better standards for yourself, set better standards for, for the family or the people that you want around you, right? And I think you got to grow and evolve and learn that. Do a lot of self-taught, read, spend time around other people and learn things, ask questions, be inquisitive, right? Your decisions don't have to mirror your upbringing conditions. I've seen people change their life, You know, we've seen people all the time, single parent household, foster care, bounce from house to house, and they've managed to find a way to push through and change their life for the better. Some don't make it through the filters, unfortunately, but for those who do, they push through the veil. And sometimes those conditions put them in a mindful situation to always remind them that they will never return back to the upbringing or the conditions that were presented to them. So I don't think you can end up looking like your dad, but you don't have to take on the decisions that they made. So, how you?
All right, I'm gonna go to Stacy. You're born looking like your dad looking like your decisions.
Yeah. So I agree with it. I think like at least everyone on this panel, I think we're looking at it in such like a negative way. And part of the reason why is because there has been such a huge absence of the father in the household, or just the lack of presence in general and leading like what an actual example of it means to be like a man. And in that, I think because we are so conditioned to believe that the father may have made bad decisions, we're automatically assuming that idea is going to push onto the kids. But I think there are plenty of people who have come from very healthy backgrounds whose father is very much present, who can relate to their dad on a personal level, who still at the end of the day have to make their own decisions, right? Like there are people who've come from great homes who are still alcoholics and drug addicts. And those were the decisions that they have made to get to that place. And so knowing that like in our entire world, we're always going to be presented with a series of options and decisions, that essentially is saying that like, yeah, you're born like looking like your dad, but at the end of the day, like whatever decisions you make throughout the course of your lifetime, if you're not necessarily changing the trajectory of your life or whether you're actually gravitating to the healthy part of your dad, that is the result of your decisions.
All right, Brother Hank, what are your thoughts about it, sir?
Yeah. Born looking like your dad. You die looking like your decisions. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I look dead on like my father. I can't deny that. That dude could deny me. But as far as the decisions, yeah, I mean, I strongly believe that. You know, if you decide you want to go down a path that you was taught, maybe raised differently on, and you decided want to do that, whatever consequence comes your way, you deserve it, regardless of what is death. You deserve that because you choose to make those decisions, those questionable decisions, those sketchy decisions, those bad decisions, or whether good decisions. Whatever consequences come your way, you deserve it. I tell my son all the time, you know, there's consequences to your actions, whether they're good or bad. There's going to be a consequence regardless. Which way are you going to go? So yeah, I believe that you do die living. I mean, you die looking like your decisions for sure.
Mistaken. What are your thoughts about it? You're born looking like your dad looking like your decisions.
I heard saw a slightly different version of that before. It was saying you're born looking like your parents, die looking like your decisions. But either way, it is. I agree with Saida and the fact that you don't have control when you're a child about your environment in the way that you grew up and things that may happen to you, because in that situation you really don't have the power. You're relying on others to take care of you, but when you do become of age, I do think it's imperative that you take a look at where you are and look at the decisions and choices that you make to see if your life is a reflection of what it is you say that you want. And if not, then it's on you to seek, information, seek guidance, to make the necessary adjustments so you can, be on a track of where it is that you want to see yourself. That's it.
All right, Jay, a story to tell. You're on mute, just so you know, sir.
I think the comment is like, you know, the baton is being passed to you, and whatever decisions you make in your life can determine if you still look like your dad at the end of it. You know, I mean, there are a bunch of things that can veer you away from the people who started you out, you know. So, and we see it every day. You know, you go in shopping centers, I'm sure you see people that you grew up with and you see them wearing the decisions they made, you know, whether it was the high school quarterback, whether it was the cheerleader, whether you see people wearing these decisions. So I think it's your, like Eric pretty much laid the groundwork for, you have to take it to the next level. You know, you have to be the person that grabs the baton and takes your family name to the next level, so that somebody's born looking like you. So that's what I got from it. Just carrying the torch.
All right, what about you, Shan Monet?
Well, I don't want to beat a dead horse. Everybody's points were pretty good, but I agree. I didn't really get to see the whole video because I came in towards the end. But we have to remember the one thing that we're going to leave behind is our family name. You know, and you got to decide on what you want that to look like. If you have a whole bunch of illegitimate kids, you weren't there in the household to raise your kids, that's going to be your legacy. And you have to figure out what it is that you want your legacy to look like. And that's not the, you know, like everybody said, when you're younger, yeah, you follow in the footsteps of your father. But as an adult, you have to decide on what you want your last name to look like, because that's the only thing that's going to be powerful that you're going to leave behind. Unless you are a wealthy man, you have generational wealth, which most people do not. Your family name is probably the single most important thing that you're going to be carrying on. And it's so important that we make better decisions on what we want that to look like. That's all.
Has everybody seen both sides of the aisle? Just out of curiosity, have everybody seen like the good family and the child that turned out rotten, and you know, the child that has grown up with all these unfortunate circumstances and has persevered and, you know, elevated himself into what we model as society and what we read? Has everybody like actually experienced and seen both sides of the aisle?
Most definitely.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I just asked because I'm like curious because I don't know a lot of people have seen both sides.
I've not seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it. The thing that I wanted to bring up is this too, and that's a great point. But the other thing that you have to bring up is we focus on the dad, and let's stay on the man side. Let's leave the mothers out, let's leave the aunties out and all of that. But then so for me, my thing was like there was some good and bad that my dad did. You know what I'm saying? The bad was very bad and the good was very good. But the cool thing about my family is I had other men besides my father who could come in and model some of the things that were right and also instruct me on some of those things that I may have seen wrong that he did. So yes, that's a very poignant statement, and that's something that could happen. But also you have to realize that at times there's other men, you know, and I mean, I not only had uncles and stuff, but I have mentors, coaches, people like that. You know what I mean? I'm from Chicago, so, you know, I'm a product of the park. You know what I'm saying? And if anybody's from Chicago, you know, usually you're going to say what street you lived on, the number of streets you lived on, and then what park you represented or the park that you always played in. And in that park, I had a lot of dudes that I looked up to, you know what I'm saying? Whether they were athletes, whether they were whatever, and they would kind of balance out some of the things that I had learned at home from my pops. And some of those things were really bad, and they were traumatic. And I did act out on them. But the coolest thing about it is the way it worked out is I always had somebody to catch me, grab my arm and be like, bro, you tripping. Like, you off. You know what I'm saying? So then, you know, I was on my way to looking just like him. And then also I believe the DNA piece has a lot to do with it too, whether you want to realize it or not. Behaviors and certain things like that can also be passed down in your lineage, because I also found out that some of the things my pops did, my grandfather did, and even my great grandfather did as well.
Yeah, I like what you said, Eric. Especially the idea of mentors, especially I think a lot of specifically minority communities are suffering from the absence of a father or the toxicity of one. And I like also mentor outside of everything else. And I always tell the women that I work with is like, if their dad isn't present, make sure you get your kid like in some sort of activity or connected with some sort of group that is going to actually act as a buffer for you, because they actually have a better chance of survival and like stepping outside of the hood if they are ingrained around sturdy men. And I think that's sometimes more important than a father in the home, because at least you're getting the understanding of what it means to be a man, how to be respectable in your community, and not get so conformed into the drug life or the streets.
That's a really good point, Shalici. It's a really good point.
All right. Anybody else want to add anything else on?
Stay away from the stuff that makes you look less like your dad, man. Crack, lean, obesity.
You got tread lightly with that, Jay.
Nah,
Yeah, well, I mean,
not fat.
Yeah,
Fat
see,
is
you was
fine.
about that. You opening up a whole,
You know what? I think
and then you open up a whole nother can of worms, bro. Like we was about to be done with that. Because everybody's face looked different when you said that.
No, what I'm saying is, I'm sure everybody has a family member, or you dealt with it yourself, but you'll gain weight to the point where you don't even look like family no more. Like it just takes your whole face and just changes it into a different ethnicity, man. So, and crack, I mean, that's self-explanatory, but I digress.
I got you. I think Shan made a good point too. She was kind of thinking along the same lines as me. When someone asks you the question, like, what is it that you would want somebody to remember you by as? So when you leave this earth, what do you want people to remember you as? And I think that's important as far as our decisions that we make. So even if we made some bad decisions, I think it's important to get back on track and understand the importance of how we lead this earth and what type of change we want to do. I think we should be not making everybody better, but we should be encouraging people, and especially our children, man, because our children are the future. So I think it's very important for us to set some type of positive foundation for them before we leave, because our time can expire at any time. So decisions you make currently, tomorrow, within the next minute, can have a huge effect. So just think before you act, think before you speak, because words are powerful as well. So make sure you are, when that tongue is moving, make sure it's moving, saying all the right things, and not trying to bring people down. So make better decisions. All right. With that being said, if you guys haven't already, hit the like button. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. This is Lapeef-ing Sunday, and we are moving right on. Shout out to all my green gang that's in the chat. Original. Everything else is carbon copy. Hello. Tay Biz TV. What's going on? Balancing Code. Balancing couldn't make it today, but she will be here next Sunday. She's in the chat as well, giving the ladies a little bit of compliments. So shout out to Balance. The next topic is listening is more than just hearing. Listening is more than just hearing. Go ahead and play this.
What women secretly wish men understood. When you listen to, affirm, validate her feelings, it causes her to feel safe. It relieves her stress. It causes her to feel connected. But men are afraid to do this because they think if they do, it will escalate her emotion. She'll keep talking and become even more emotional. But it actually has the reverse effect, because now she doesn't have to keep defending her feelings. She can just be. Feelings are neither right or wrong. They just are, regardless of how illogical, irrational, or irritating they may seem to you. So don't try to change, solve, or fix her feelings. Just grant her wish and listen.
We'll play one more time.
Here's what women secretly wish men understood. When you listen to, affirm, and validate her feelings, it causes her to feel safe. It relieves her stress. It causes her to feel connected. But men are afraid to do this because they think if they do, it will escalate her emotion. She'll keep talking and become even more emotional. But it actually has the reverse effect because now she doesn't have to keep defending her feelings. She can just be. Feelings are neither right or wrong. They just are, regardless of how illogical, irrational, or irritating they may seem to you. So don't try to change, solve, or fix her feelings. Just grant her wish and listen.
All right, Sarah, I'm gonna go to you first to see you with the hand clap. I'm taking it as though you agree. Would you like to shed some light to give your perspective on that? Listening is more than just hearing.
What else can I add? She was clear enough. All you had to do is listen. I'm just kidding. No, I think it's true. Everything she said, it's true. It can be summarized in one word: empathy. That's it. We don't when you're empathizing with someone, you're not saying I understand what you're going through, but more like it's understandable. Your feeling is understandable. If I was in that situation, I would probably feel the same. Or you're just understanding the feeling of the person. But it's more like going beyond that. Putting yourself in the person's shoes is not enough. More like, what would you do? How would you feel if it was you with the knowledge that you have, with the circumstances, with the environment that person is? How would you be reacting? Because sometimes we want to empathize from this side. Oh, yeah, it must be weird to be on that side. But what if I am on that side with the size of your shoes, with your problems, with the weight that you're carrying on? That's different. That's empathy. And when you empathize with someone, you will understand their feelings more. That's it.
Okay. Looks like Jay has a lot of empathy. With that being said, listening to more than just hearing. What are your thoughts? I don't know how you're gonna follow that up with Sierra, but go ahead and give it a try, Jay.
I mean, honestly, I mean, that's accurate. I mean, I was just listening and I just gained some knowledge in terms of making them feel safe. You know, I didn't necessarily know, and that's a question that I have. How does that make you feel safe? Affirming an emotion or a feeling or an outburst.
That's a good question, Sierra. You want to respond?
Oh, so he's asking me?
I
Just
think
women.
Wait, what was the question? What's the question again? Click.
It's how does that, because she mentioned that it makes you feel safe, affirming those emotions and feelings, and I want to know how does that, or does it?
So can I give an example?
Sure.
It may sound silly and stupid, but it's more like the vulnerability that you want to have with your woman is the same thing that it creates for us. It's a safe space for us to be us. So with my soon-to-be husband, I was going through a situation with my friend, one of my good friends. I don't have many friends, or besties, as I can call them. But we were having a situation, a disagreement, and I was feeling a little off. You know, it was a weird feeling. But he didn't make me feel like it was stupid, like it is just girls' drama or something like that. It's like, hey, I understand why you're feeling that way, or whatever he said, because I don't recall exactly what he said, but it's just that it didn't make me feel that it was stupid, the reason why I was feeling the way I was feeling. That's simple. It's safe. It's a safe space to be me. I don't need to be aggressive. I don't need to act in a certain way because I'm not protecting or justifying why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. That's simple.
So you don't remember what he said?
I mean, I do, but I don't need to give that explanation. You always do that.
So you heard it, but you ain't listening.
Of course, and that's why I remember the way he made me feel.
I had just saw on Instagram something that really spoke to this, where I can't remember who it was, but it was a couple, and she was saying that most of our arguments occurred because of something that wasn't said. And she gave the example of how, it might be something like, she's supposed to be going to her grandparents' house and she asks him, want to come? And he's like, no, I don't want to go to your grandparents' house. And she said, that's what he said. But what she heard was, I don't like your family. And I think a lot of times I think women do it probably more. I might be wrong, but I think both parties do it in terms of sometimes we misinterpret what is being said based on how we're already feeling or our own experiences. And we do need to do better with listening, and if we're not sure, clarifying, like, this is what you said, I'm hearing, X, Y, and Z. Is that exactly what you're meaning? To get clarification, because a lot of times we could just pop off over something that may not necessarily be what was even meant. And so I definitely think that just listening is different than hearing. But if you're trying to truly hear someone, you need to ask for confirmation and clarification based on what it is that you interpreted.
All right. Hey, Jay, you got to understand?
Yeah, a little better. A little better. But my fault. I do that as well. I don't even hear words anymore. I hear what I think you meant. After a certain age, when I was younger, I obtained all the words and data and circumstances. But as I gotten older, I just don't. I hear what I think you meant. I don't hear, so I have to communicate. This is what you meant.
That's interesting how that happens.
All right, we're going to keep it going. Listening is more than just hearing. I'm going to go ahead and go to you, Hank. What are your thoughts about it, sir?
Yeah, I don't agree with what the heifer said. I don't agree with that shit at all.
Yeah,
it's full of shit. So yeah, I'm just being honest. So you want us to coddle you and listen to you and hear you out, but we can't get that same goddamn respect. We don't get it. Y'all say y'all do. Oh, we'll listen to you, but then it'll get somehow flipped around and turned into a vitting session for her to get her point across again. Another opportunity for you to sit back and just listen. So I'm supposed to unload and share what I'm feeling. All of a sudden it gets flipped on now. It's just you just using this opportunity to say what you need to say. Yeah, I don't trust that shit. I don't believe that shit. Because look, you could tell a woman that oh yeah, and all that you want to, but it's not gonna make her feel secure. She's not gonna stop. If something's on the heart, something's on the heart. She's gonna let it be known. It's not gonna stop just because you say certain words to make her feel secure. No, it's not. So that's why I don't agree with what she's saying. Not at all.
I think the problem, though, is that most men get into the position where you are right now, where you instantly get defensive. And when they're speaking and you're immediately getting defensive, now they're escalating to the next phase. Versus if you actually hold space for her where you're not being dismissive, you're not being like, oh, that's stupid, whatever, just get through it, or doing what most men do, which you guys automatically go into problem solving mode, she would actually get through it. The reality is emotions only exist as long as they're allowed to linger. And if you're allowing them to constantly linger, they're going to manifest into other things.
So see what you just did right there. Now see what you just did right there. You just assume I went into defensive mode like I did. You use me as an example. That's what men are talking about. Look, men are the best listeners in the world. We'll pay attention to you so you can't be paid attention to the point you ask us the question. Are you listening to me? Did you hear what I said? Y'all ladies do that shit all the time on the regular basis. And we sit there staring at you in the eye, listen to every word you say. But you'll just assume that we're not paying attention because We're not saying anything because we're listening. You asked us to listen. That's what we asked us to do. That's what you want us to do. And so we're doing it. So no, if I'm listening, I don't need to talk. I don't need to respond unless you ask me a question.
But
But
you're
we're
saying,
listening. But that's not what y'all ladies do for us. Y'all don't want to listen. Y'all don't even want to hear it most of the time. Y'all say, oh, what's the problem? You're a man. You get over it. We've been taught that ever since we was kids. You're a boy. What are you crying for? You don't have a voice. You're silenced ever since you came out the womb and you had a penis. You've been silenced ever since then. And you've been treated such. But you went to accuse me going on defense mode and the reason why she's doing what she's doing. No, it's not the reason why. That's not the reason why at all, though.
but your inability to actually create a safe space with the partners that you're creating, how is that society's like issue? The reality is, if you're actually choosing appropriate partners who have that understanding and the sensitivity to that, males specifically or Black men specifically have always had their voices cut off. They have always been in positions where they felt like they don't have the vulnerability or the opportunity to like voice their concerns. But like a woman who has actually evolved past that idea of that men need to not be vulnerable or open or vocal will never put you in the position to be in that place in the first place.
Most men can't be vulnerable with their women.
I agree with that.
What do you think? You believe that or not? They just can't.
No, I agree.
Why? Because there's a lack of trust in y'all because y'all talk too much. Y'all want to say too much. Y'all want to share. Everybody's going to know what's going on. If it ain't y'all putting it on social media, y'all telling your friends at the gathering when y'all get a little too many glasses of wine up in your system, and now you spilling the beans. Now they know, I'm having an ED problem. I'm dealing with, and I'm waiting for my pills in the mail. Yeah, my man's he's going through some shit. He his doctor prescribed him. Yeah, shit like that. Because y'all can't keep your goddamn mouth shut. You talk too goddamn much. But please believe the man's not going out here telling, man, my wife throw it back. Now your friends won't be good. No, we ain't doing that shit. We're not doing that. Men start to talk. Most men don't say a lot anyway. If you get, I've said this many times before, if you get over 3 hours of conversation in a 7-day week out of man, you got a whole lot out of him. Because most of the time he just don't talk. He's more so willing to listen than to talk. So to say we're not, we don't talk. No, that's not true. We talk when something needs to really be said. But most of the time we're being great listeners. We'll just sit there like mom and don't say nothing. Y'all just like, oh, and y'all assuming we're not paying attention. But we can recite every goddamn thing you say. Every word for word.
Bar for bar.
Can I say something real quick? So the way I'm understanding, and I understand what Hank is saying, because when I said what the man needs to do, I didn't mean to say every man does it. That's the ideal. That's what we want. And that's what he's saying. That's the areas that we as women need to improve. He's just saying it as a man. I don't think he's trying to offend anybody. I'm not getting offended because I'm not that way. So, and that's we women, we have to take it in that way, that's what we need to improve. And I'm saying it in general. I'm including myself because I'm not perfect. In some areas I will need improvement. So I will need my men to tell me what I need to improve on so we can be better together. So I think if he thinks, or if he feels that a woman is not, or talking too much, or probably not expressing herself well, or whatever the experience he's been through, that's what he needs, like the woman needs to be doing, working towards that and improving to be better. Because honestly, we are not all good. All women are not good women, and all men are not good men. That's the reality. So just as we are asking for men to do certain things, women also need to change certain things. That's the way that I see it, or I heard.
Listening to comprehend and not listening to respond. I think that's what sums up this conversation in a way. But at least I would answer it this way. When I'm approached, I always ask one or two things. Do you want me to fix something, or do you want me to just listen? And if you want me to fix something, or you want me to come up with a solution, let me know that you need help with something, coming up with something, getting creative, etc., and finding a solution. Let me know. If you want me to be a soundboard and just listen, let me know. Because at least I could be like, okay, I'm not finding a solution, or I'm not trying to fix anything, but I'm just rather listening. And unfortunately, men don't express that up front, and a lot of women don't come up to their man and tell him, hey, I've had a day. I need you to listen to me for a moment. Or, hey, I'm having an issue. I need you to fix something for me, or I need you to solve something for me. If people were a little bit more direct about what they want the intended receiver to pick up, we will have less of these issues, because it's that upfront communication is where we're getting missed in the dialogue. And what happens is he's thinking one thing while she intended another, and they're both operating on two different frequencies. He's zoning out, thinking of a million different ways to try to solve this problem, put out this fire, to get her to stop talking. And meanwhile, he's not really listening effectively and listening to comprehend, right? But rather to just find a solution. And she didn't communicate up front that all she wanted him to do was just be a soundboard and listen to her. She had a bad day at work. She had a bad day at school. You know what I'm saying? Something was going on in her family dynamic. Something happened to her personally. Whatever the case may be, I think that space can be held, but unfortunately, that needs to be directed up front of what this is. And I think that a lot of people who don't really know their partners well and don't study their partners well, they'll make that mistake. They'll make that mistake multiple times. But I think once you understand your partner and you understand each other and you understand how you both communicate and where the tall tale signs of where you pick up where that person needs you to show up in a particular type of way, it will be self-evident, right? But unfortunately, that's the part that a lot of people tend to kind of miss each other. And then there's these escalation where people are getting defensive. Now they're going back and forth. You didn't listen to me. And now it's a fight. It just started off with you just listening to me. Now, dishes being thrown across the room, So a lot of people tend to kind of miss the bigger point. Sometimes you just need to just be a soundboard. And honestly, I'm gonna say something even more real. After a long day, after you both have worked a long day, one person is really not trying to listen and the other person is really not trying to give a fuck. Right? A dude who comes home after a long day, like, God damn, I just dealt with this dude for 8 hours and now I gotta listen to her for like an hour and a half about some stupid chick at HR who commented about something that she feels a type of way now, and she thinks she's hating on her, right? And some people are not ready to deal with that person. Life be lifing, and sometimes couples go through things that they're like, fuck, look, let me take a moment, let me take a shower, let me unwind, right? And let me just relax and get into a flow before I come and listen to you. Don't unpack that on me when I just came in through the door. And that's typically where a lot of people want to have the conversation, when they're just right there at home, fresh at that moment, to ready to discuss. And sometimes that leads to a lot of back and forth. How are you?
All right. You go ahead and get go ahead, Ms. Beck. You want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, because I see that sometimes, in the chat, I think sometimes people mix up what validating someone's feelings mean. Validating somebody's feelings doesn't mean that you agree with them or you're just, placating them or anything like that. That's not what validation means. It doesn't mean you have to agree with them. So if someone is saying that they're feeling a certain way and you don't think is rational, you don't think that they should be feeling like that, To validate them doesn't mean, oh yeah, I agree with you, even when you don't. It's just you can ask a simple question like, well, why are you feeling like that? Just in terms of getting them to express what they're saying, but not trying to say that they're stupid for feeling like that. Doesn't mean you need to agree. Like I remember when I was pregnant. Now my feelings are all over the place. It was crazy. So I didn't really know. I remember being in the bathroom. My husband came in. I was just sitting there crying. He's like, "What are you crying for? Like, what's wrong?" And I was like, "I don't know." And he's like, "What are you crying for? You sound crazy." That wasn't a time. That wasn't validating. Like, even though he didn't understand it, to be honest, I didn't understand it. But the right approach could have been like, what's going on? And I'm like, I don't know. Oh, so you're confused or whatever. That would have validated me without calling me crazy, because then that made me feel even worse, because I'm like, I don't know why I'm doing this, but now you're saying I'm crazy. So now so it kind of spiraled. So I just think that's like, learning how to validate someone doesn't mean that you are agreeing with what they're saying. That's all.
I think that was an excellent example, because that would be a situation where him possibly giving you a hug or laughing or doing something to take your mind off of the actual emotion that you were going through would have improved the situation and make you feel safe, instead of kind of almost being like he's on fire too, almost like, what are you're crazy, and then that just inflames what you're already going through. So understood.
All right, go ahead, Eric. What are your thoughts about listening is more than just hearing?
After hearing what everybody said, I'm gonna go back to a little bit of what Hank said. See, one of the things that we're forgetting is, first of all, I think the statement that the lady made was a very surface situation, a very surface statement. Real talk, it was really a weak statement, because, that's a multi-layered thing that she's talking about. Number one, the first thing you got to deal with is that there's emotions and feelings involved. When emotions and feelings are involved, and especially if you're talking to your woman, especially, like, for instance, Mistaken, you said that about you being in the bathroom crying while you were pregnant, right? Oftentimes, when you're speaking to a woman and she's emotional like that, like, you have to exercise some type of patience, not just to validate the feelings or even the emotions or even give a hug, but sometimes what that woman wants during that conversation even changes. Because even as they're talking to you, things start to happen. And it's not just saying, oh, I understand, or something like that. But sometimes an answer is required, because there's been times that I've had conversations with people that I did exactly that. I said, I understood, I got it, I get what you feel. And then in the midst of the conversation, it flipped, whereas they wanted more than just that. And I think that the situation is always nuanced, man. It's not the same all the time. It ain't just, oh, well, because, even vice versa, like, women should do that to men too. Just like Hank said, I get that. But the thing about it is that you have to be in tune with that person that you with. And I think that's the biggest problem that people have, man. They're not really in tune with that person, man. Like, they ain't really feeling them. They're not really vibing. And I get, like, you went through your day and all of that, but it's been times that I've went through my day, and then I know it's weird in the crib. Like, it's weird. Come on, brothers. When you walk in the crib and it's weird. You know what I'm saying? Certain stuff ain't happening. Certain stuff ain't vibing, and you know what's going on. And you have to be prepared for that situation. And if you're prepared for that situation, you know that something's, depending on if your woman talks or not. Like, all women really don't talk either. So that's another piece. That's another thing that we could get into. But if you know that, and your woman talks, something's coming. And then if those emotions come, emotions change. Like, we all know this. Emotions change every year, every month, every day, every minute,
second.
every second. They always change. So then the need in that conversation changes as well. So you have to be able to understand the nuances of that conversation, what that woman needs at that time, and knows that that thing could change. It may not be just you listening to her and just hugging and doing that, but also a solution may be needed. And if you're not prepared for a solution, gentlemen, you know what? Your ass could be in a sling, real talk.
Yeah, I just think men have to work on some of their non-verbal responses. You know, if you've been doing the same thing, responding the same way, then that ain't working. But just try to be like, damn, like what? You know, kind of like tighten your face up a little bit more, like give a different reaction to kind of let her know you engaged.
Like a choke.
I ain't say all that, Jay.
But bro, that don't work all the time, man.
I was just being.
I mean, that's
I was just being funny, Eric. Eric.
The situations are situations.
I was just trying to slide. I was just trying to slide a little jokey in there, Eric.
Yeah, but
I was hoping y'all laugh.
Look, this conversation triggered me, bro, because I didn't have these. I'm triggered. Look, I don't know if I have my glasses on, but this eye right here started jumping. I don't know if you know this.
Well, I hear all the time that men are more emotional intelligent than
women. That's right. I know that's right.
Oh, I hear that all the time that men are more emotionally intelligent than women. And I'm not saying they're not. I'm saying if they are, then, and they are the leaders, then why they don't teach or lead the woman towards to understanding their feelings. And I have an example. So a lot of people use, I'm not happy. I'm not happy. And that when someone says that, in my mind, I've done emotional intelligence courses. So in my mind, immediately, I'm thinking this person doesn't know the emotions that she's feeling, he or she is feeling. And the reason why is because we only know sadness, happiness, and anger. Those are the emotions that we know. But when you dig in a little more, are you unhappy or are you frustrated? Are you disappointed? Because it's valid if you feel disappointed that you didn't get the job promotion. That's valid. It's valid to feel like that. But when you say I'm unhappy and you look at it overall, the big picture, are you really unhappy? Or are you just frustrated for a certain thing? But that's what a man could be doing towards when he doesn't feel like the emotion of a woman is valid. And I'm not saying when it's valid or not, you're not agreeing with the emotion. It's just that you're saying it's okay for you to feel the way that you're feeling. That's what you're validating, because we're humans. We're just feeling, and we have the right to feel the way that we feel. So, or you're not agreeing with the emotion. You are agreeing with, hey, I understand that you're feeling that way, but let me understand more of that emotion. Are you feeling frustrated? Are you feeling disappointed? Are you feeling angry? Towards who? To you, towards me? Because sometimes as women, I've been there. I felt angry, but I was angry at myself. I wasn't angry at the other person. I don't need to take it on the other person, but I don't know how to manage that anger. I don't want to punish myself with the anger, but I know I did wrong. So what I had to do is, like, hey, kind of forgive myself so I don't have to take it on others. So, that's a way that I can see that a lot of people don't know how to manage their emotions. And I hear men saying, oh, I know how to handle emotions and I'm the leader, but I don't want to teach you. I don't want to help you and I don't want to do anything. So it's confusing. It's confusing to me, at least.
I think sometimes that what you just said introduces a whole nother thing into it, whereas you work on yourself. See, all your conversation, the whole time we've been talking, this shows that you work on you. So by you working on you, I have a feeling that when you do go off and you say certain stuff to your man, your fiance, congratulations, by the way, that there's a time where you realize, like, you know what, I'm tripping. You know what, I'm frustrated. You know what, I'm off. And sometimes that has to be introduced into the conversation as well. Yes, we can listen, we can validate, and we can do all of that. But I'm going to tell you something. If those types of conversations keep happening to certain men, then, man, it's going to wind up being a problem for that man, too, because that weight gets heavy on him And again, back to what my man Hink said, who he gonna talk to? Because he damn sure ain't finna talk to his boys about this and be like, oh man, she tripping again. Because that's how it comes out sometimes. So then you have to be able to talk to a woman sometimes that's actually doing some of that work themselves, on themselves. And then if a woman is talking to a man, sometimes 9 times out of 10, it is for some type of solution. And the solution she just mentioned was validating the feelings.
I did. Stacey, did you comment on this? Okay. Shan?
I think it's important to understand that men and women are just different people. Okay. Men are logical, women are emotional. And some women are far more emotional than other women. You just got to figure out which woman you got on your hands. Okay. It does give you a sense of security if you're able to vent to your mate, especially if he can listen to you, understand where you're coming from, and even give you advice, or if there's a misunderstanding, clarify. Effective communication can go a long way. I don't know many women who don't talk. She talks. Maybe you're not listening, but most women are talkers. If there's an issue, she's going to say it, right? If she gets emotional, that means it's gotten to a certain point, and you should probably really listen because it's dear to her heart. So if nothing else comes out of this, just understand we're just quite different. You may not understand us, and sometimes we don't understand you. That's just how it is, okay? If a woman is not emotional and she's not emotional about you, you probably got the wrong woman. That's a red flag, But there are women who work on it, like Saida, emotional intelligence. But that's not, that's because we have the internet. We know, go these emotional intelligence workshops. But just naturally, unless she has a whole bunch of life experiences, you may have to work with her. Teach her something like, hey, I'd like you to talk to me like this. Once it's died down, maybe you should teach her. That's probably why you're in her life, to teach her something, So that's just all I gotta say.
All right.
Shanta, nobody had to teach you how to talk to that white man at work. I promise you that. That dude that signed that goddamn check. Ain't nobody had to teach you that.
That's not
true. Let me clarify.
But you come to me, you talk 10 karat crazy to my black ass. I do know that.
So let me just say this. I don't have an emotional attachment to the man at work. I have an emotional attachment to you. Love comes with emotions, and it comes out a certain kind of way. So if I'm feeling you and I feel a certain type of way about you, it's a blessing. It may come out a little off because I'm just that riled up about you. Okay. I don't have that for Jack at the office. I can really care less about him. I care about you. So again, if you don't like it, just hear me out right now. Understand where I'm coming from. And then another time, hey, let's talk about it. Look, can we handle it like this? And then she's open to hear your opinion on something. Because I think that we think emotional is like, oh, she's like off the wall. She's about to slash some tires. Emotional can just be like, she's just going, like mistaken to it. She's just crying or something as simple as that. That's emotional. So.
But that's even more reason why you should be doing that to your man, because you like you said, you have that emotional connection with him.
And that's what communication
unless you're not afraid of losing.
No, so that's where communication comes in. So if once she does it and you see that that's an issue for you, let it die down. And then at another time, bring up some of your concerns about the way she handled that. And if she keeps doing it, then that's a problem. But if she doesn't know that you have an issue with it, or you want her to handle it a different kind of way because you're a different person, the last man may have said it was okay. So you have to tell her what you want and how you want her to behave. And if she takes heed to that, she may be your woman, But if you never tell her, you don't have that conversation.
That you paint a man with a broad brush and think we all the same. You're going to treat us all the same, even though we're all individuals.
No, she's treating you how she naturally feels. She's probably an emotional person naturally, but she's never met a man like you, Hink, who doesn't go for the emotion. So now you got to teach her like, hey, welcome to Hink's world. I need you to.
I'm definitely going to educate you.
Okay.
So you're saying that needs to be groundwork. So in other words, you're saying that because real talk, a lot of people actually enter into these types of conversations, right, Shan? And they ain't did that groundwork you're talking about. See, now you're going back to what the other young ladies have said. There's been some groundwork that's come across. You know what I'm saying? Like where you understand each other to a certain right. And that's why I said this whole statement is, you know what I'm saying? It's really not like clear. It's like, oh, just listen to you. But it's like, there's got to be some groundwork done. There's got to be some stuff put together, because a brother like Hank, or even me, for instance, it's like, yo, if you come to me like that, then I know it's a problem. You see what I'm saying? Because we've had these discussions. We've talked about a few things. I've even shared some stuff about me. You know what I'm saying? And I've seen how you've reacted to me. So now if you come to me like that, I get you. I understand. Yo, let me stop doing what I'm doing. Let me, you know what I'm saying? Let me put the remote down. Let me turn the TV off. Let me look. You see what I'm saying? Like, I get it. So what you're saying is on point. And what I'm hearing is, and if I'm wrong, please correct me, but it also, there has to be some groundwork set in the beginning. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of relationships, there's no groundwork set. It's just like, yo, we look good, we kicking it, we having a good time. We may have even slept together, we've done all this, but ain't no groundwork. Sure. We just on the kicking it part, but then we're not even talking about the real stuff that builds real relationships. So is that what you're talking about? The groundwork being set?
Understanding each other, what each other's needs are. If you don't like the way she communicates, maybe not at that moment, that's something that you need to revisit, especially if you like her. If she keeps doing it, then absolutely. But if you're talking about something as simple as crying, or she's emotional about, she was pregnant and she's emotional about something, that's so small, you just have to hear her out. But if she's getting all wild and everything, it's like a red flag, sit her down, talk to her, especially if she's young. She hasn't had that life experience, because you know how you guys like to go young. Talk to her, it's like, listen, I don't know if you've ever dated a man like me. This is a true man, but we do not tolerate this, okay? And if she keeps doing it, you got to let her go. But if she listens to what you're saying and you're guiding her, you may have a good one on your hands, So you just have to, people have to learn each other. Every person likes different things. So you have to get to know your mate. Your mate has to get to know you. And you guys have to speak to each other in an effective way so you can understand each other, so you can move forward and it be a successful relationship.
How about just being cordial? How about just doing it? You can do that.
Emotional doesn't mean you're not cordial. It just means
some of these of us can't be cordial.
Are you thinking about cussing somebody out? Emotional doesn't mean you're cussing somebody. Emotional means she's just emotionally going through something emotional. It doesn't mean she's like blessing you out or going off on you. It can just be something that she's going through that has nothing to do with you, and she's emotional. I think we think about like crazy emotions. Like, that's not everybody. That's the little young chicks y'all be dealing with.
It made me think of Monica's song, Just One of Them Days.
Just one of them days.
Right. Like, sometimes, like,
that's y'all life right there. But them songs, they tell y'all whole life, don't they?
No, I'm just saying that
Jasmine Sullivan.
Yeah, sometimes as women, it's like, sometimes I feel like how you guys say that we're trying to tell you not to be men. It's just certain aspects of women that are women. Like, we are emotional. And it's just going to have to be something that you guys learn to adapt to. And just like there are certain things we're going to have to learn as women, that like, if you're upset, a lot of men don't like talking in that moment. They need their space to process. Leave me alone. Just give me a minute. You know what I'm saying? And then we can come back and discuss it later. Whereas a lot of times women, someone be like, nah, talk to me now, that kind of stuff. Like, no. So just like we're going to have to make adjustments to get on a better page of, because the true goal is to understand one another. So if we're truly trying to move forward in that, we are going to maybe have to get out of our comfort zone in terms of understanding how we deal with feelings in order to understand the other person better. So that's just my take on that part, because I know men, like even my husband, he was like, I do try to listen to you. I know I'm long-winded. Y'all know I'm long-winded. He's like, but I got like a 3 to 5 minute span where I can truly focus on what you're saying. So I'm gonna need you to get to like the meat and potatoes of it, and then, you know, let me respond. And that has been working. He's taught me how to make what I'm saying more concise when talking to him, because he doesn't have the attention span.
So he try to fast forward you?
No.
Stop, Hank. Stop.
The footnotes.
Yeah, he's like, give me that version.
You want the clip note version. I understand.
So I'm like, all right, I got you. So I've been learning to do that.
He just wants the glossary. Okay, yeah, okay, I got you.
But see, you said groundwork. Back to what Shan said. Y'all said you get what I'm saying? Groundwork has been set. See, the best way to deal with emotions, y'all, is to set some type of groundwork or set some type of precedence for the emotion. You understand what I'm saying? But many of the relationships that we deal with, these emotions just coming out of nowhere. Brick upside the head from the blind side. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I said what she's saying. You know, you have to be careful with that. You feel what I'm saying? Because if you haven't established nothing, like your husband actually had the presence of mind. Like literally, he showed you a lot of love, because he was like, yo, I want to hear what you got to say, but yo, I can't deal with all that right now, because he might even be overloaded. He couldn't even understand it. So y'all set the groundwork. So that's dope.
I think something important to remember is when we say women are more emotional and men are logical, that doesn't mean that women are not logical and that men don't feel. Because men also feel, and when they feel, they show emotions, and that's the part that we also need to remember and respect, which is what Hank was saying at the beginning. You know, we need to validate also their emotions. If they're feeling frustrated, they don't want to talk about it, you know, whatever situation at that moment, we need to respect that. The same way goes around when she feels like, hey, I can't go to bed, you know, upset. I can't. Actually, and personally, I cannot eat when I'm angry. I can't. If I eat when I'm angry, oh my gosh, it's going to be horrible in my stomach. But I know myself. But what do I need to do is communicate with my husband that I need to fix this situation or clarify this right now, because I'm not going to eat until everything is clear, because it's going to be bad on me. So it's communication.
All right, y'all. We'll go ahead and put this one to bed. Guys, just tuning in. Welcome to Lapeef-ing Sunday. So make sure we hit the like button. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Shout out to the sponsor, Tees Hanley again. 30% off along with a free gift. 30% off along with a free gift. And again, the Tees does work for ladies' face. So if you have rough skin, don't feel left out. The Tees works wonders. Rub it on your chin. I've been trying to land them jokes all night. I guess they're just not hitting with the panel. But hopefully the chat is laughing. Hope you are laughing within your homes and your trucks and your cars, man. Because
so yeah, are you saying that Tees is not sexy? It's equal opportunities. Is that what you're saying about the Tees?
It is.
No, that's right.
50-50.
I get it.
All right, we did have a couple of super chats that came through. Tape Biz TV said, shout out to the panel. Great first topic. Salute to you. Everything else, carbon copy, $10. We have heard for years the bad things our parents or parent did. I guarantee we can find the good things our parents as well. Even if our parent was a drug dealer, he was good with money, for an example. Enter the Dragon, $5 says, women want to be happy by getting what they want, while men aim to be content with that they need. Men don't chase happiness because it's pointless. Is that true? Men, are y'all chasing happiness?
They chase women.
Which is happiness. Because what's going on these streets?
That's not true. I mean, women are not happy.
I'm joking, Hank.
Women are not happy.
You know what? Y'all ain't right tonight. See,
they
trying to be civil. Hank, we trying to be civil, dog.
Right,
you gonna let them say that to us, bro?
Hey, look, you even got the new lady over there taking shots at Hank. I just don't understand.
No paperwork today, y'all. No paperwork.
No, I ain't gonna found nothing, Jay. I'm good. That's not my thing.
Man. You know, sometimes the follow-ups meetings don't go well. All right, let's get on to the main topic of this evening. Is this woman? Let me see. This woman says, "Don't waste anybody's time if you're not willing to be selfless." Woman says, "Don't waste anybody's time if you're not willing to be selfless." I'm gonna go ahead and play this video. Everybody ready for the video? Y'all paying attention? Shan, hello.
Shan and the party bus. You on the
Shan
party
trying to set
bus?
something up for later. Shan trying to set something up for later.
Hey, you already know, Hank. Don't you see
look on
already
you see the look?
hanging on the screen?
You can see the look, and I think
Shut up.
she like, oh shit, they caught me.
And don't think her answers ain't to him. Anyway, let's go somewhere.
All right, here we go, y'all.
Make it for your partner, the better you make it for the unit. Y'all, this was supposed to be a grocery haul, but I just felt a little word on my spirit, something that needed to be said. I meal prep for my boyfriend. We don't live together. I make sure that his food is fresh and it gets to him on time, every time. And I'm not saying that to toot my own horn, but I want to say this. If you are not willing to make sacrifices, you do not need to be with someone else. If you are not ready to be selfless, you do not need to be in a relationship. Every time my man comes over here and sees me, he works a full day, 9 to 5, sometimes beyond that. And he comes in without any hesitation and he asks me, what do you need me to do? He doesn't drag his feet. He doesn't gripe. He'll do anything from walking the dogs to folding laundry. He'll do anything to help alleviate work off of me because he knows that I have a lot on my plate and he wants to help me be successful. I want to see my man thrive. I want to see him thrive physically. I want to see him thrive spiritually. I want to see him thrive financially. I want to see him thrive in whatever ways that I can possibly help him. This is the trick that a lot of y'all really not getting. The better you make it for your partner, the better you make it for the unit. It's a constant back and forth exchange of help. And I think some people get into relationships and it's like, what do you bring to the table? I bring me to the table. I'll treat my man good and this and the third. If the only thing that you have to offer the other person is basic human respect and decency, baby, you're not offering much. The Bible says to be with someone else and to truly be with them is to die to myself. That means that life that you used to have, you can no longer have. Stop entering into these scenarios and making other people pay for the sins of your past partners. If you feel like you can't let go of that, don't even bother nobody else. Just stay by yourself. All men are this, all women are that. How do you know that? The people that you was choosing to deal with, they were like that. Moral of the story is that if you are not willing to be selfless, don't waste anybody else's time.
Well,
Yeah, I ain't go to church today.
One of my
but
guys
I just did.
shout out to my elephant. My issue with this is, what incentive does the man have to marry her? He is getting everything now. LOL. Just want to put that out there. Let's go ahead and talk about it, y'all. Let's talk about it. I'm gonna go ahead and go to Stacy first. A woman says, "Don't waste anybody's time if you're not willing to be selfless." What are your thoughts, man?
Well, first, I don't think you waste anybody's time. Like, I think people waste their own time. So just disagreeing with that. But I do believe that when you go in relationships, you have to know that you guys are both brought up differently. Like, you guys are coming from two different ideas, two different upbringings. And in order to actually make the relationship survive, there has to be elements of you that will need to be compromised in a relationship in order for it to flourish. So there's parts of the male that has to die. Like one specifically she was talking about in the Bible, right? Like the idea is like, for Christ died for the church. Like that's a selfless thing. Like that's the ultimate sacrifice, is to give up to himself. And it's like women have to step out of themselves and their own projections of what a relationship should be. But the man also has to die of his like pride and ego. And so I think it is important to like really one, understand, like, are you actually ready to be in a relationship with someone where you feel like you have to let your old self go? It reminds me of, like, just, I think a few weeks ago, we talked about the Keke Palmer situation and how she was like half naked on stage or whatever. And people were just like, oh, the baby daddy shouldn't tell her what to do. But the reality is, like, she's a reflection of him. And I know, as me, as a woman, like, if my man was like, hey, I didn't appreciate that half naked picture of you, like, you need to remove that. Like, I have to be obedient. I actually have to surrender to that out of respect for my partner. And it's not him being controlling. It's just him simply setting his own personal boundaries for himself. And so I can't necessarily be like, oh, well, I looked good, you're just trying to control me. No, like, the selfless thing is to, like, actually listen.
All right. Let me go ahead and go to Jay. What are your thoughts about a woman says don't waste anybody's time if you're not willing to be selfless? You're on mute, just so you know, Jay.
You're on mute, Jay.
My fault, man. I think that's accurate. I mean, I think half of these relationships, maybe 65% of these relationships out here are people wasting each other's time. You know, I think people are just don't want to be alone, and they are clinging to these relationships strictly waiting for that new person or this person that they have made up in their head to come along and rescue them. You know, that's what I think is going on. But definitely in a relationship, you have to be ready, depending on if you want a real relationship. Like, I mean, you know, you can grab up anybody and just have companionship, but if you want a thriving relationship, you're definitely gonna have to compromise something, let go of some things that you've had and you've been comfortable with for a long period of time, especially if they're in conflict with, you know, the person that you say you want to be with long term. You know, you're going to have to put a lot of those things to the side. I'm not saying compromise everything, but there's going to have to be some middle ground that y'all operate in. You know, like Stacey was saying, for instance, you know, taking a picture. I mean, if, like, you're a reflection, you are a reflection of each other. You know what I'm saying? Just like she said, if she's taking a half naked pic, I mean, if he's on the internet with the gray sweats, you know, and everybody's hitting the like button, like, hey, you a reflection. I'm sure the woman wouldn't feel comfortable with the gray sweats print. So you're gonna have to modify that. And if you don't have that basic respect, then you're not ready. And if you're not willing to compromise and, here go that word, not submit, but if you're not ready to modify that behavior for the sake of making this relationship work, then you're not ready, you know.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and go to Luis. What are your thoughts about it, sir?
Yeah, I agree. I like the sentiment that people are sharing. You know, I don't think that people are out here, you know, wasting other people's time. They're wasting their time. So I do agree with that sentiment. A lot of people just up front don't set up expectations for their person, right? They don't set expectations. They don't show certain traits that they need from their partner. You know, if you're someone who is busy and is always on the go, right? You expect that the moments where you're unable to do something, that your partner will be able to show up for you in a particular type of way. And I think as it goes vice versa, right? Reciprocity is very important in a relationship. You know what I'm saying? People always think that because their relationship is not moving in the direction that they didn't talk about, that somehow that the grass is greener on the other side. And in reality, their relationship is the grass that needs to be watered. You know what I'm saying? It's dying of attention. It's dying from people being selfish. And I just think that in today's culture, I think we do have a lot of selfish people. It's just, we just got to call a thing a thing. A lot of people are inherently selfish. And I think that being selfless is a really, you know, it's something you have to practice. something that you have to do things outside, like charity. You know what I'm saying? How involved are you in your community? There are certain aspects about how you move in your day-to-day life and how you show up that shows moments of either stewardship, mentorship, being able to step outside your comfort zone, right? And do things for others, although nobody is watching, right? That's very important. And sort of those things tend to kind of trickle down into your relationship. And it's very important that people pay attention to those things, right? It's like this person is, working very hard to do something, but then when I need them, they drop everything that they are doing and attend to my needs or attend to listen to me, right? And I think that paying attention to those and understanding your partner is vital because, like the previous videos that we showed earlier this evening, kind of ties into this well. Like, how well are you really listening? How well are you really paying attention? You know, and in the video she illustrates how she wants him to eat well because he's probably bouncing out and about, and that's probably important to him. So she identified something in there about this man that she's in a relationship and elected to show up in a way where she's making sure he's taken care of. And I'm sure that he's done the same thing too. But how many people are really, really, asking their person, these types of questions like, hey, I know you're busy, but how can I show up for you? You know what I'm saying? What is it that you need me to do? Right? And sometimes you might not know, and sometimes you might not have the answer, and that's okay. All of us don't always have the answer at that moment, but at least be honest at least be, take the initiative to have the conversation and ask the difficult question like, hey, what can I do for you? How can I show up for you? You know what I'm saying? And don't be afraid of doing that because you'll be surprised, what the response will always be. So that's all I got.
All right. Go ahead, Eric. What are your thoughts about it, sir?
Louis, what everybody said is dope so far. It's just one thing that was really wrong to me with what she was saying. Like it was right, but it was wrong. And it was all about like things you do to show you're selfless. If we go back through this whole show, right, we talk about things that are emotional. We talk about things that, the other person goes through, their thought processes, what they need to be heard on, all those types of things. I think that's the piece that we miss it on as far as being selfless is concerned. I think that in this society, we get so caught up on what we can do for someone that we don't really look at the other parts that make it selfless, right? The being able to put yourself in a position whereas maybe at that certain time your need won't be met, even in a conversation, or your need may not be met in a certain situation. And I really do believe, like, and this is where she's right, like so many relationships end so very quickly because of other posts, other things that people say. Whereas, like, even I saw some on TikTok the other day, like the whole red flag thing, and a lot of those red flags deal with stuff that are totally selfish. You know what I'm saying? So, we have to look at even more than what we do, because sometimes in the midst of all that stuff we do, our motives are very selfish. And we can get caught up into what we do so much that we don't even look at the motive and even why we did it. So then later in the conversation, this has happened to me. I don't know if it's happened to anybody else, but then later in conversations later, well, I did this for you. And I did this for you. I did this for you. And then we just have to be careful with, how we exhibit that selflessness. You know what I mean? It's because it's more than just what you do. And it's layered, and it's just so many things that are involved with that.
All right, go ahead, Shamone.
I agree. with everybody. Obviously, if you're in a relationship and you're dating with intent, and he is as well, it's important to be as selfless as possible. Always find out what your partner needs and try to be there for them. Kind of like similar to like pre-marriage, so to speak. The problem is a lot of people are doing this for people who are not being intentional. Are you doing it for somebody else's husband? Are you doing it for the player down the street? And then you get hurt when it's not reciprocated, or you don't see, the end result. And so it kind of tarnishes you trying to do it for another person, because then you have in your mind, oh, I'm just going to be used like I was before, when in actuality, you were just doing it for the wrong person. You guys weren't on the same wavelength. You didn't communicate on what you were trying, your end goal. So first and foremost, just make sure that you're dating with intent, and he is as well. And of course, be selfless, be everything that he needs you to be. And you continue that, because, that's the whole point, right?
Let me ask you a question. Like, because the scenario in the video didn't really show all sides, right? It just gave enough to like reel us in and pay close attention. But how can people who are both very busybody, both very competitive at what they do, orbit around each other and meet each other's needs, especially when there are moments of contention? And to the point that Eric made, because it made me think of something, it's like sometimes your needs might not get met. You might need me to do something this particular week, and I can't do it. I can't show up for you the way you want me to. And when he made that comment, I was like, damn, that shit hit home, because I personally have been in that situation, right? And I was thinking of every possible scenario. I was like, well, you could do this. And I'm like, sometimes you can't show up for that person. So what is the alternative, right? How do people who tend to kind of miss each other at pivotal moments, needing that person in their life, right? Whether it's a small task or a large task, whatever it is, and obviously we could delegate. You could always find creative ways to go about it, but I always find it interesting. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had a friend once told me, she was like, in a relationship, Lewis, a lot of, there are people who are there are people who are reaping, and there are people who are sowing, right? And I kind of sat with that, and I kind of started thinking to myself, and it's like, yeah, you typically have that balance where you have one person that's more giving than the other, that's going to do a lot more than the other, right? But the things that sometimes that other person is doing, they're going to pour back into that person when the time is right, or when it's necessary, or they're going to do it three folds more, because the time of opportunity isn't always there compared to most standard. A lot of people are not in these 9-to-5 situation. Wake up, go to work, and come home. By 4:30, we walk the dog, have dinner. Watch Netflix. A lot of people are not living in that. A lot of people are in the hustle and bustle. Sometimes getting out late. Got to go to the gym. Got to do this. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes even when you involve kids, that's a completely different dynamic, right? There are couples who have sometimes struggled trying to find date night for each other because of their schedules. And sort of, I want to add more real world context, because I think we sometimes are devoid of the nutrition of what reality presents to us on the day-to-day. And we see it, and we lived about it. That's why I said earlier, has anybody met or seen anybody who has ever been, had a good upbringing and went through this, or vice versa, right? Because a lot of us don't see that and don't know what that looks like. So I just wanted to kind of bring that up for a little bit more roundtable context.
Yeah, I think in those moments, I think that's where communication is super vital, right? Because I feel like you may not necessarily have all the time in the world to like dedicate to me, but it really boils down to how effective you are in communicating that to your partner. And that is the strength of a relationship. one thing that like I've realized that has been circulating lately on the internet is like there used to be this like idea of like if they wanted to, they will. And like that has been kind of scratched out, like because they don't have time, because they have other priorities in their life, because they're sick, because of this, and like kind of debunking that truth of just being like people are constantly going through different seasons in their life where they can't 100% fully show up for you. And but also more so in a sense is like we also have to realize that relationships aren't always 50-50, like Louis said. Like sometimes there is an 80-20% load or 10-90% load, and it's like if you actually have a partner that can effectively communicate of like where their struggle areas are, or like, hey, like I can't pour into this relationship in the way of what makes you feel comfortable, that actually eases the anxiety of feeling like you're doing too much, or they're not being selfish, or you're being taken advantage of.
Stacey, real quick, I'm gonna say this real quick, and we could pass around the room. But like one of the biggest things that I talk about when I talk to people and when I coach people is there's no such thing as work-life balance,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no such thing as at most times relationship balance, because most times we think that balance is like this all the time. And that's not the case. There's going to be some times where the weights have to be put in a different place so that the household can still run. So sometimes this is balance in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Relationships are not always like this, but sometimes it's like this. Whereas your wife is taking more of the load because you're getting your doctorate degree.
Mm-hmm.
And she may be working a little bit more, and she may be taking care of the household a little bit more. She may be doing things that she did not normally do to support you,
Mm-hmm.
right, in what you need done. So the tasks that are being done are not necessarily balanced, but the relationship actually is. And it can be the same thing with the man. Like for instance, if the the woman is sick, she got sick, and you have children and he has to take care of the children. That's not necessarily always where everything you do is balanced, just like you said, Stacey, and communication is key there. But we get caught up in, like I said, the whole thing about being reciprocal and everything having to be the same. And she did this for me and I did this for her. And real talk, when we start relationships, that's like the first thing that we usually talk to our friends about, what someone did for us. And all those types of things, which, that's a part of it, but we just have to be careful that we look at the motive behind everything that's going on so that we can make the proper decision.
Absolutely.
She said it best. It's not 50-50. Sometimes it's 100. Sometimes it's all on you. Sometimes it's going to be all on you for maybe a week, 2 weeks, sometimes a month or two. Some circumstances are set up that way. In the beginning, there's always this balance. It's the romantic scene. It's painted so picturesque with bright pastel colors. But in reality, once you get into the midst of things, the scales don't really weigh sometimes in your favor or in that other person's favor. There might be a circumstance where it's going to be 80-20. You're going to have to show up a lot more for this person because they're in that type of season, or that stage of their life, or they're going through something, where it's either a career move or school, whatever the case may be. But I don't understand why today in our society, and this is a God honest question, why do we love and tend to fall in love with this idea of 50-50 balance, equilibrium and stuff like that? Like people actually have never gone through life, balancing work, home responsibilities and school at the same time, and have a child, to take care of at some time. That's not balance. There's a juggling act. There's a sleight of hand that constantly happens all the time. You know what I'm saying? And so we got to get away from our society at whole. We got to throw that fucking concept right out the window about this whole balance and this whole, equilibrium type of bullshit. That's what got a lot of people in the chokehold, because they're afraid to step outside their comfort zone and do what the hell they're supposed to do. That's the reason why they're selfish, because they're unable to wield to the other person temporarily to allow them to flourish so they could come back and pour into you in the right way. That's the reason why we're so stuck on this damn balance part that it's not allowing a lot of relationships and marriage to flourish. Yeah, that's what I got.
I agree with what Lewis is saying, but the one thing that I also will say is that we find time for the things that are important. And I agree that sometimes you may not be able to show up for a person in this particular situation in this moment, but I think it's about setting a pattern of consistency. So if I know, like, typically this is our routine and you typically show up for me and I typically show up for you, when the situation occurs where you can't, it's easier to accept because you know that this isn't the norm. I think a lot of times what happens is we prioritize other things and we'll say, oh, he'll understand, she'll understand. And we take the relationship for granted. And so then the other thing becomes the priority. And then before you know it, you've moved this far away from each other. And the reason I say that, and I think I had shared this before, was that, like, when I had got COVID, my husband and I got COVID, that was a turning point for the both of us, because we didn't know if one of us was going to die. You know what I'm saying? And so in that moment, it was more of a lot of regret. Like, I wish I had spent more time with my kids. I wish I had did this for him. And it was the same thing, both of us said, wish we had went on more family vacations. And so after we got through the worst, it was like, okay, F work, F school, like, my family is my priority. My family is my priority. So it was like, you know what? I'm drawing a boundary for work. Work is not coming home. I will work at work. And when I come home, it's you time. It's our time. Now, that's not to say that sometimes I didn't bring work home, because there are occasions where you just have to do what you have to do. But those were far few in between. So both of us have made it a point to prioritize each other. So when those other opportunities come up where he can't or I can't, it's understandable. It's easier to accept because I felt like I've been prioritized most of the time.
Yeah, you got to be able to kind of carve out a schedule for yourself. You know, Friday night is your date night, and you block that out. Everything else comes second. You know, obviously, you know, unless it's like a family emergency, you know, something grave, but you got to block that out. Block out that time where it's pencils down, you got to leave the office, etc., and put in the time. Yeah, but I mean, how many people are really, really doing that? Like, really, really blocking out that time. And, you know, I want people to honestly live their, you know, lived experience perspective on it, you know?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's the problem. It's kind of like what you were saying before about, you know, that a lot of times the money becomes the value across the board. So a lot of times we're like, oh, I'm working for my family. I'm doing this job for my family. So the job is taking a lot of your time, and I'm not just speaking to men, I'm back and forth, either or. So when you're prioritizing that job for the money so you can do this for your family, you're not realizing that your family wants you. That's where the value is in the family. But you're like, I make this money, then we can go on these vacations, we can do these things, but the value is you. If you ask them, they'll rather have you. And that's what it hit me like a ton of bricks when I thought I was not going to see my family anymore. And so sometimes it takes something to kind of cut off that pattern to make you see things differently. And so it's not to say that your job isn't important, but your family is more important. So if you're focusing on your family and saying, okay, how can I balance this? I want, you know, I got a good job. I like my job, but I want to make sure that my family is intact. how can I balance that? And that's where that focus, that's where the communication with your spouse will come in. Okay, look, this is what I'm thinking about, so we can have more time with each other. Like, that has to be everything that you do has to be for your family. If you're not spending time with your family, then what's the point of it?
Well, but see, that's the conflict that happens all the time when people come together. I like you, I'm interested in you, you like me, but our value systems are completely different. I value X, Y, and Z. You value A, B, C. You value family. You value time. You value, memories, etc. I value the mighty dollar. Now we are in conflict with each other because we are not in alignment. I like you, you like me, but our value systems do not align, and they don't like each other at that. And that's where a lot of the conflicts and a lot of the issues happen. It's the value system. People are not talking about value systems or the things that they value, you know what I'm saying, whether it's religion, whether it's spirituality, whether it's family, you know what I'm saying, all the virtues that tie people and bring people together. People tend not to be, hovering around those things or discussing them at a greater length of detail. I think that happens a little bit later, you know what I'm saying, once there's this built up interest and all these pheromones are happening. But up front, a lot of people are not sharing their value system, what they talk, because if they gave you the opportunity to get an insight of what you think about certain things when it comes to family, money, you know what I'm saying, you will find out that that person won't be as appealing to you as you thought that they would. That is the reality. And that's why a lot of people tend to kind of shun away from those conversations up front and kick them down the road, because they're hoping that maybe just a little bit, if you like me enough, that you will bend on your principles and your value system in order to align with me and what I got going on. And that is a recipe for disaster.
All right, let me try to get some other folks in. Sarah, you want to go ahead and respond? Woman says, don't waste anybody's time if you're not willing to be selfless.
Everybody had great points, and I totally agree with the video. But the only thing I will add is kind of what Eric mentioned earlier and Luis as well, because they were connected. When they asked the question, what is it, or what level? But I would say when you're selfless, and you're genuinely selfless, you don't expect anything in return. That's what makes you selfless. You don't expect anything in return because you're doing it from the heart. It comes from the heart. So you're not saying, oh, he didn't do this, he didn't do that, because you're not expecting that. That's really being selfless. And to me, it's like, if you are or you're not, if you're expecting something in return and you're doing it because you want that, it's manipulation. That simple. So if a woman is doing something or a man is doing something, because I'm not going to talk about just women or men, when someone is doing something and expecting or doing it with the intention, I want the ring, I'm doing it because I want the ring, it's manipulation, because I'm not doing it for the right purpose. I'm not going to be satisfied simply because I'm expecting that. I'm always expecting something. That's not being selfless. But it has to be genuine. And that's all I had to add, because I really agree with most of the things that you all said. You have great points.
Go ahead, brother Hank.
Well, going off this, what the woman says, don't waste anybody's time if you're not willing to be selfless. I mean, look, I don't know who that dude is, but he need to go and put a ring on it. She's got a chance. What she was talking about, doing what she's doing, she's got a chance. So if I know my man Adams said talking about we're doing those things, but look, she cannot do those things, and he can lose her, and she's gonna do it again for another man, and another man is gonna be smart enough to go and put a ring on that woman's hand, and gonna keep that going for the rest of his life, more than likely.
No, Hank, I don't agree with that part. The second that she steps out of his life and he notices that void, he's going to go running back to her, because he realized, like, holy shit, She added so much value in my life. I cannot live or move without her. She like you
but
can't.
Lou, that's if she's willing to let him back in. She may not be willing to let him back in. If she waited, say 2 or 3 years, and this man ain't even talked about her, didn't even go ring shopping, let alone actually put it on her finger, didn't go ring shopping to get some ideas of what he probably should be looking for to get for her. Yeah, it could happen. But again, I don't think. I think he should. Now, as far as selfless, most men are the selfless ones in the beginning of relationships, because we're doing all these things because we know we trying to get the cheeks, we trying to get the yams, we're doing all these things. We're taking you out to eat, we're being cordial, we're making you flowers, making sure chocolate, making sure we recognize when your birthday is, when our anniversary, when I first asked you to be my lady. We're doing all those things.
But if you say that you want something, that's not being selfless. That you want something in return.
Well, we could say same thing about women. Really, we just
exactly, Hank. I was actually about to say women do the same. Yeah,
we using each other, but I don't think that's the case. But once they get married, that's when the woman becomes selfless in a relationship, because now she's doing these things for the family or for her man, and cooking, cleaning, and make sure everything's up to par. He's where he needs to be, and he's more of the receiver. That's just my opinion on that situation. Some you may agree, you may not agree. I give a damn less. I don't care. That's just me. But as far as listen to what this lady was saying, I have no problem with it, because my lady do the same thing. She cooks for me, and we don't live together. I got a whole stew and beef with some Jeffrey cornbread up there, waiting on me for Sunday dinner. We don't live together. But
carbs, I need some of that, bro.
Come on through. I got you a plate.
I'll break bread. On my way to the basement, bro.
Come on, I'll break bread with you. But I don't have no problem with that. And she doesn't have a problem. She takes care, make sure I got enough food for the week. You know what I'm saying? So what's wrong with that? You're supposed to do that for your man. That's not an issue. But she knows she's well taken care of with me. She has no problem. She know everything's gonna be everything. She's gonna be safe, sound. She knows whatever she calls me, I'm there, no problem. You know what I'm saying? Those are the type of things that men love to see. Those are the type of things a real man will appreciate that, because he realized, man, I got a good lady here, and I'm not fattening this frog up for these snakes to eat. I'm not going to do that. So we had a conversation the other day, talk about going and ring shopping and getting ideas what she want. I said, cool. Do we need to come up with a budget? She said, yeah, you come up with a budget. Oh, perfect. I like her in that. I'm in love. You're going to get this ring. I get to come up with a budget. We're going to go shopping. Yes, we do. Yes, I will. I have no problem with that. But at the same time, the woman's got to set the expectation. If that's what she wants to get married, y'all better set the expectations. Y'all better let it be known. Because if not, we can keep on playing house if we want to, and we'll play it to the end. But ladies have to set the expectations. And the expectations is not set. You can't fault that man not to marry you or get engaged, because you didn't set the expectations for him. You didn't have the conversation from the giddy up. It should have been had probably on the first 2 or 3 dates. What's your feelings on how the marriage? That should be one of the questions you ask the man. If you're a woman who's looking to want to get married, that should have been one of the questions you asked the man. And if you're looking to want to have kids, that needs to be one of the questions too. Follow up right after how you feel about marriage. All of these things need to be discussed. If you don't put it out there and you just want to keep playing house, don't come 5 years down the road. Well, I think I'm ready to get married. Bullshit. Too late now. We come along marriage. We might just keep rocking this thing out. Ain't no need to breaking up what we got going. We might jinx ourselves. So, just my opinion.
All right. Hey, Jay, did you respond to this?
Shan didn't go.
Shan did. I think everybody went.
Okay. The only thing I'm gonna say to that is this: I'm kind of speaking from a couple of personal experiences, right? Like I had somebody like that, you know what I'm saying, that was doing everything, and there was a communication. I think Stacey's right about the communication piece, but then the communication got to the point. There's a difference between letting someone know and it becoming a demand. And I believe that when things become demands for people, then selflessness goes out the window. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm saying. And that's why I said motive is connected to it. So I going all the way back to what Stacey said earlier about communication, I think that's key.
All right. Anybody have any final thoughts about that? Anybody want to add anything else? Any solutions? You know, maybe like a couple solutions. Go ahead. You want to say something?
Jay can go first. Jay can go first. My bad.
No, I think Luis made a really good point in terms of finding balance in life. I mean, imagine how hard it is to find balance in our own personal lives. You know what I'm saying? The minute you start making more money, you know, all of a sudden your clothes don't fit the same. You don't let the weight, you know, you don't got gained a little weight, can't wear the same clothes. The minute you're getting spiritually inclined, you know, you done got mentally declined. It's always like a balancing act with our personal lives. So how can you not expect that you're going to get into a relationship and not still deal with that balancing act? You know, we really don't look at it like that. You know, we make it seem as a matter of fact type of thing, but in reality, individually, it's damn near impossible. So how do you think you're going to get with someone else dealing with their own balancing act and it's going to be possible?
All right.
My thing is for the men. If you got a good lady, man, I mean, a solid good lady, man, make time for her. I don't care if it's one day out of the week and y'all agree on, baby, I don't care what's going on. I'm going to give you this day, whatever day it is we choose from. It's all you. No distractions. You know what I'm saying? We get to dinner, no cell phones. We put cell phones in our pockets or in your purse. There's no need to answer cell phones. We don't need to get on social media. We not taking pictures of food or drinks or none of that shit. We just going to be here within each other's, pouring into each other. This is what it's all about, right? Make sure you find that one day and give her, matter of fact, give her the whole day. You didn't give her 6 days. 6 days, she didn't really get you, but you're going to give her that whole day. Like, for example, what I do, Saturday. Saturday is me and my lady's day. She knows I'm not doing a show. I'm not doing nothing else. I'm not working, not doing nothing. I'm focused on her and her only. So I'm pouring into her, she's pouring into me, and that's what it's all about. You know, so don't come calling me talking about, man, I need, no, don't do that, because I'm not taking your calls. I'm hit that F you button. I'm sorry. It is what it is. It's her day. And you catch me the next day, yeah, I'm gonna hear everything you got to say. We can do whatever we need. You need help moving something? Cool. Don't call me. But don't call me on Saturday. Something, man, Hank, come over help me. No, bro. You have to find somebody else. I'm not that guy today. Call me Sunday. We can do it. But Saturday's her day. I'm dedicated to her. Dedicate a day to that lady, man. And give her that. Whatever it is. Allow her to go dress up to get pretty. Because what you don't want to do is allow one of these other snakes to come in and get your woman. Because they out there. You got a good solid one. They out there. They gonna do what they got to do. Also get in the ear, say what they need to say, slide in the DM. They gonna do that. They gonna do it regardless. But don't have a crack where they can slid on through and get to her. That's when it become a problem. And you didn't want to where her attention span's going to that snake. He just slid it in and got a hold to her. That's too late.
But you say he bitter, huh?
Like a boa constrictor, baby. He done tied her up. Sedate her.
Poison.
Yeah, we don't need that. Yeah, we don't need that. Don't do that.
That poison kicking in.
You said sedate her. Look, I'm just trying to make sure you said what you said. Sedate her.
He done bit him, man, with that snake venom. Hey, yeah, that's an old country reference. I'm country than a motherfucker, man. Shout out to my boys from the 502.
That's why I rock with you, bro. My people from the SIP, so I already know what you're
talking
about.
Right. I know that's right.
All right. Anybody else? Stacey, you trying to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, but also like more so for the women too, because we know men are like naturally providers, right? So they are always in the position where they're trying to make the most out of their situation to provide for the family. And I think as a woman, it's important for you to be honest with yourself of what you're ready for and like what you're genuinely prepared for. Because if you know that you're dealing with somebody who doesn't work a 9 to 5 and their hours are crazy and all over the place, you have to be honest. Like, are you genuinely prepared for that life? And are you willing to sacrifice your own personal needs of wanting to be under him all the time for the sake of that relationship and where he has to go? Like, as a woman, like if you are in the position to be his helpmate, you're supposed to help him get to that place. And that's by providing that sanctuary and that space for him to do what he needs to do. So then that way he can come back and pour in you.
All right, thank you. That's going to conclude our show.
I was going to say one more thing. It looked like somebody's pointing to Shan. I know it because she ain't hardly talking. Ain't looked up. I mean, hi, dang.
Short and sweet. When I was short and sweet, gave y'all a little knowledge. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, I know.
That's why I don't want no beef with you. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to come to the basement with beef. You know.
Hey, Shan. You know, turn that camera around, man. Let's see. Let's see the others.
Let's see what.
Don't tell on yourself. Don't tell on yourself.
No, in all honesty, if you want to know, I have to turn my camera off every now and then because I was cooking dinner at the same time. So, you know, I was going back and forth. And what I was cooking it was taking a long time. So finally it was done. But
what you got on the stove? What you doing over there?
I'm Southern. So I had some greens. And I waited so late to start cooking them. That was so dumb.
That's how he's all right with it. That's all that matters.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know she didn't deny it.
Hey, you tried to slip her up. I saw you. You see how you tried to slide that up in there? Make you a trip, dog.
I got her. It's too late. I got her.
Look, y'all be coming at people hard. I'm like, oh, I'm a soft lady.
No, it was light today, Shan. It wasn't that bad. Pretty light. It's a Sunday energy, man. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. If you haven't already, hit that like button. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Again, shout out to the sponsor, T. Alley. Uncomplicated Skin Cut for Men, 30% off along with a free gift. Make sure you guys click that link. Make sure you follow everybody on the individual platforms. So, it was good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. So, good to see you out here in these spaces once again. I want to thank Ashika Cheek for coming through. Luis, Stacy, Jay, Eric. Y'all make sure y'all support everybody on the platform. Follow them on their IGs and their YouTube channels and all that good stuff. Everybody's doing something great. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and close it out. Thank y'all. Until next time, we are out.